Hello, everybody. Happy April 28th, 2020. My name is Christopher Saunders, and this is the Connecticut Sports Talent Show, where we talk all things talents in Connecticut. And on today's show, we have the head coach of the Staples football program, Adam Behrens. Coach Behrens, thank you so much for being able to come on today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no problem, buddy. You've been with the program now for a little bit over a year, give or take. And first thing I got to ask you is, how do you like, being in the Connecticut area?
I like it. It's really growing on me. The winter was a little bit of an adjustment coming from Florida, but I grew up in Iowa, so I had been through it before. But yeah, really starting to get familiar with everybody in town, and everybody was really welcoming when I got up here. And so kind of getting more of a comfort zone with it heading into year two, kind of knowing a little bit more what being a head coach of a football program entails.
Now, you mentioned how you're from Iowa. Were you born and raised there?
Yep. Yeah, Bettendorf, Iowa. It's right on the Mississippi River.
Now, can you go into a little bit about your background? Did you begin your coaching career in Iowa or was it in Florida?
No, it was actually in Florida. I initially wanted to be a strength and conditioning coach, and so I ended up getting a internship down at the IMG Academy in Florida, and then from there they began the football program, and eventually having a background playing football, they had asked me if I'd be interested in kind of double dipping and doing the strength and conditioning and helping with football, and eventually kind of came to the conclusion that I knew I wanted to just kind of go the football route.
Was it difficult in the beginning kind of doing both, or was it something where you knew kind of head coaching was the end game there?
I had no idea I would ever want to be a head coach. I actually started, my job was to pretty much warm up the kids, set up the field, and then I would go out and catch footballs for the coach that was coaching the quarterbacks there. And then we'd go back into the weight room. I liked it because it was something new every day.
Mhm.
So, you do a little bit of the weight room, but that never got old because then you transition into the football piece of it. And then I was fortunate enough, they allowed me to coach a bunch of different positions since it was just really on the coaching side, me and another coach. So
Mhm.
I was not very good at it, but was able to coach a lot of different things. So get like a taste of a lot of different things I had never done. Definitely took me out of my comfort zone.
Was there anybody, because with your time with IMG Academy, just knowing based off of what I've read in the past years, they produce a lot of talent in that area and the academy itself. Was there anybody in particular that you worked with that could have been in the game of football or just sports in general that you had an opportunity to be able to witness firsthand?
Yeah. Cam Newton was one of them. He's one of the most physically impressive human beings I've ever seen, just from a stature standpoint. And obviously, he was very talented. And then Russell Wilson was really impressive to be around too, being not as big of a stature guy, but just the way he went about his business and what his work ethic was and how locked in he was and how dedicated he was. Everything was really cool to see.
Do you have any stories about either Newton or Russell Wilson that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I know one thing with Russell, you get to a point during the NFL combine training where those guys are doing the same exact thing every day. They're seeing the same people every day. So usually see they start to get a little irritated or kind of short fuse after a while. And this was maybe my third year helping with the combine stuff. And so he was in the middle of a workout in the weight room and, he was doing some rows and looking down. And I was starting to get to know him pretty well at that point and said, man, Russell, you got to be starting to get worn down, a little bit tired at this point, huh? And he looked up at me and just said, I don't got time to get tired, dude. Put his head back down and went back to work. And I was like, yeah, this guy's special.
That sounds like something, that people have said about him since he's basically stepped foot in the NFL, talking about the work ethic and how he's just a different guy. He's a different breed. And I'm sure you're not surprised. I'm not surprised that he's been so successful in Seattle, working with kind of like Tom Brady, not working with a lot of talent, but being able to take that next level with those guys.
Yeah, it's been, I'm sure a lot of people are watching the stuff on Michael Jordan, the series that's out now. And
Mhm.
definitely had like that where, Kobe Bryant's like another guy that kind of really known for like what his mentality was. And you could tell he was definitely wired different in the way you knew he wasn't going to stop until he got to where he wanted to be.
It really sounds like you've worked with a lot of great talents, as you just mentioned Newton and Russell Wilson. And the question I have to ask you is, what made you want to leave Florida to come all the way to Connecticut where it's cold and we don't have a Russell Wilson or Cam Newton up here? So what led you to Staples?
I got to the point. was really lucky and really fortunate and blessed with what I had the opportunity to do down at IMG. Being a position coach there, I'm really fortunate with the people I got to learn from down there and my time there. But kind of wanted to again get out of my comfort zone and do something that was gonna, not that I wasn't growing, but I kind of wanted to hit that point where I had a real big growth spurt again. I really felt challenged, and this kind of popped up and seemed like a good opportunity. I had gotten to know a couple of the kids just through like private quarterback training, been working with them, so seeing the kind of kids.
Hmm.
Jake Thal, he's going to end up going to Michigan as a preferred walk-on, but seeing what kind of kids they had up here, and you know, it's not IMG. That place is obviously unique with the ability we had to recruit, but I've been really impressed, especially with the FCAC, with the football talent up here and the level of coaching they have. So knowing that I was going to be able to come up and work with a lot of kids like Jake and be in that environment was really exciting to me.
And you mentioned the FCAC. I broadcast the NVL, which is the Naugatuck Valley League, and there's a lot of talented teams and players in the league. But the FCAC, I think, in my opinion, is a different level just because of the amount of Division 1, 2, and 3 kids that it continuously produces. As somebody as yourself, who's both witnessed and probably have seen a lot of talented players back in Florida, did it take you time to adjust being up here as far as being a first-year coach way back when? Or was it more of like just going on a bike and just going?
Oh, there was definitely an adjustment period. I know a lot of people, when I took the job, and I've always heard like you're never ready for your next one. You kind of listen to it and you kind of don't. And I would tell everybody that I now know, especially in football, you're never ready for your next one. Definitely a big learning curve. I've probably learned more in the last 8, 9 months
Mhm.
than I probably had in the last like 5 or 6 years, just because it happened so fast. But yeah, it was just definitely wasn't like riding a bike. But like I said, I learned a lot. Really excited for year two, having got those experience and kind of know more what to expect. I knew, IMG is like a cheat code. You get the best players from across the country. I definitely have a newfound respect for high school football coaches just because the playing field's so leveled out. So you really have to evaluate like
Mhm.
not just, hey, we're going to run this play, but why are you running that play? Why do you think that will be successful in high school? Why would that not work in high school? So it's definitely made me see a lot of errors in my ways and made me reevaluate myself a lot.
And you mentioned a couple of times actually about how the adjustments that you had to go through. Could you explain maybe some of those adjustments that you had to kind of deal with during your first season?
Yeah, first and foremost, I mean, I was inexperienced in terms of some of the stuff I was having to do for the first time. I inherited a great staff in terms of the human beings and all that I had, but there was some inexperience there as well. So, one thing I want to make sure I do a better job moving forward is doing a better job of coaching the coaches and making sure I'm coaching them up on the way I would want things done and making sure I'm learning from those guys as well. I would say that was probably the biggest learning curve is just not having the same resources that you had where I previously was, but I really like that and I appreciate it because it's made me have to learn some things that I didn't even really realize exist in football, and it's had made me have to, like I said, really reevaluate things and see, try to find ways to work smarter, not necessarily harder, if that makes sense.
No, it does. I kind of see what you're saying about how there were certain points where, being down in Florida, like you said, there's talent amongst talent everywhere from coaches to players. You come up here, not saying, not to throw Connecticut under the bus, but there's obviously going to be a little bit of a learning curve because now you really have to maybe be more fine to detail than you
Hmm.
would having to be in Florida, where, as you mentioned, it's like dropping talent from a tree wherever you get.
Yeah, I mean, there are times where, and the coaches down there are outstanding. Like I said, I've learned a lot of what I know about football from those guys down there. So it's not to take anything away from anybody, but there's times you maybe run into like a 8-man box with inside zone, which on paper shouldn't work, but just so happens your running back's going to Alabama, so you kind of end up scoring anyway. Whereas here you gotta, um, I mean, it always helps to have good players, but you gotta really think about how to get the ball into certain kids' hands and how you can manipulate different things and the numbers a little bit more. So definitely excited for that and have enjoyed digging into that this off season.
Now it was a struggle for Staples last season, 2-8 overall. I know the record doesn't look very good, but I think if you want to, people who are, like yourself, who really are fine tuned into football, there must have been some silver linings in last season, even though the record did not show it.
Yeah, like first and foremost, I know I needed to kind of teach better on my end what I kind of wanted done. I gave myself a little bit um, too much credit and thought maybe, I don't know if that's really the way to say it, but I thought I'd be able coming in June to get more done necessarily before the season started. And
Hmm.
another big takeaway is, your staff and kind of who you surround yourself with. Like I said, I was really lucky with the guys I had last year, but you can't run a successful organization or a football team or a business on your own. We lost some close ones, and there's a lot of things that I look back and that I know I specifically can look at and say that if I personally would have done this better, I think it might have got us over the hump in some of those games. So, like I said, it's been interesting kind of diving into that and looking back into that and really kind of trying to discover who I am as a coach and what I want my identity to be as a coach, and not just kind of doing what I did last year and going into a game and, well, I'm just going to run all these plays because it's what I've always done and it's what I've known.
Hmm.
Um, but really saying, well, like, why are you calling it that? Why are you running it that way? And actually thinking about those things.
Now, with you being a first year head coach, considering all that goes with, as you said, kind of having the opportunities to, with the coaches and the players and, consider like in baseball where you're making your major league debut, everything is spinning about a million miles a minute. For you as a coach, when did things kind of slow down for you where it could have been the fourth or fifth game or wherever where you felt like, okay, now I kind of have this under me a little bit?
It was our sixth game. We had a pretty good first half against New Canaan. They ended up pulling away from us quite a bit.
Hmm.
But at that point, I was starting to, the results necessarily didn't show up. But I personally was feeling a little bit more comfortable. The staff, I feel, was really, and I should have done a better job from the beginning of like kind of, I don't want to say setting expectations, but really just putting it on paper and saying, weekly, this is what I need from everybody. Um, so at that point, I think as a staff, we were kind of falling into a groove a little bit and kind of working well together. And everybody knew, like, this is what we're doing Tuesdays, this is what we're doing Wednesdays, this is what's expected Thursday. And then, unfortunately, I had an illness in the family, so I had to miss the last 4 games of the season. So it's kind of frustrating feeling like we were hitting that groove and that experience was coming with everybody. And then, unfortunately for myself, had to kind of come to an end.
I'm sorry to hear that about your illness. A family member. I did not know that, and I do apologize for that.
Oh, no. Yeah. Thanks. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. On a happier note, there was some players who did really stand out for Staples. A senior who was leaving, he's going to play college ball at the next level. The tight end AJ, who is
Yep.
a great tight end, can catch and block. Blocking is something that's kind of almost lost in the game, as you should probably know from being able to see so many games. And then the two juniors, the running back Henry Beck and the tackle and guard Sam Milberg. Talk to me about those three players because, in my opinion, they really kind of stood out this past season.
Yeah. AJ really came on at the end. It was fun watching. We had a big game against us against New Canaan. Very selfless kid. We actually had some injuries on the O line, so we had to ask him to actually slide in and play tackle for us. Did a really, really good job with that. So I think he got a little bit, or not a little bit, a lot more comfortable with the blocking aspect of everything, along with, he could already run routes and had good hands. He did an awesome job for us, really good running back. I want to say he had like 160 some odd yards against Ridgefield. Really good lacrosse player, really shifty. I know he's starting to talk with some colleges. And then same with Sam. Sam, we bounced him around to a couple different places on the offensive line. So again, another kid that never complained and was very selfless. Ended up putting him at left guard to finish the season and was a really good defensive lineman for us as well. And actually ended up having a block punt this year for us too.
Oh, really? That must have been like the highlight of his day.
Yeah, he was. It was awesome. He was pretty fired up.
And he plays like, I watched the film on all three of those players, and we'll get to the tight end in a minute. But watching Milberg and Beck, Milberg looks like he's one of those, like in a good way, a dirty offensive lineman where he plays until the whistle is blown 3 or 4 times. And Beck, the way the game is played now because of the spread offenses, you have to have a running back who can catch in the backfield. And Beck had well over that as far as receptions in, as a running back. So that must be happy as, you being a coach to be able to see that from both those players.
Yeah, with Henry, that's something I want to kind of expand on this year too, and do a lot more of like 5-man protections, get him out of the backfield right away,
Mhm.
and stress the defense a little bit more that way by getting him involved immediately in the concepts. And then Sam, yeah, plays super hard through the whistle. I know a lot of coaches were really looking forward to getting him to some of these camps, but obviously, unfortunately, with everything that's going on, hopefully we can get to some of those later. But no, I'm still getting a lot of guys reaching out and asking about him. So obviously, there's more important things going on in the world than football, but hopefully we do get to have a chance to have the season. I'm hopeful for it, and really looking forward to seeing what those guys put on tape.
And I just want to go back to the running back Beck real quick. As you mentioned, if he can catch in the backfield and kind of expand his game, that not only makes him attractive to colleges, but looking at it selfishly from your point of view, as he's coming back for his senior year, that can really extend drives. And if you need, let's say it's 3rd and 6 on the opponent's 35, you could probably get those yards depending on what they're showing because he's so versatile and his lateral movements being able to go, as we've seen on film.
Yeah, what's nice about Henry and what was nice with AJ last year, and we've got the two kids that played quite a bit for us last year. Sean and Owen Clark are twins, but they're both very versatile too. So we have the ability where we can keep the same kids on the field at times, but get into different personnel packages. So with AJ, if all of a sudden we had him in line or in the backfield, lead blocking, we could come out the next play and go in an empty set to where you don't really skip a beat. You can do that same thing with Henry, where you could have him in the backfield, hand him the ball, go right into an empty set, put him out in the slot, and you're not really going to lose anything with him out there.
The virus has affected, you mentioned too about not being able to have players like Milberg go out to camps and really kind of see the imposing figure that he is from the tackle and guard position. But looking at it from just a team perspective, has the virus affected the team at all? Obviously, with schools not being able to be in attendance, you talk about gyms being closed. You and I were going back and forth prior to coming on about the tracks being closed as well. Has that affected the prep work that you need for the next coming season?
Uh, I mean, it's always nice to be able to see the kids in person. We just got a really nice weight room that we redid, so we're kind of getting going in there in the off season. We have a lot of multi-sport athletes, so I know they're doing their lacrosse meetings and staying involved. Hopefully, we can get part of that season going here shortly and can do some of that in June, so those kids can kind of finish that out, especially for the seniors. But
Mhm.
yeah, it sucks not being able to see them face to face, but we're still our strength coach does a good job. We're sending the workouts out to them to provide, hey, if you get bored today and you want to go out and knock this out, providing that stuff to them. And I took a lot of the college film and the NFL film I had and put that on Huddle. Just said, you guys ever get bored? Here's some games you can watch, you can check out. But just trying to help them and their parents, try to give them something to do.
I like that though, going at it from a, glass half full approach and allowing these, young men to be able to see that there is a positive and not everything is so negative. And that kind of leads me to my last question. What is there to expect for people who are from Staples or people who just like the game of high school football here in Connecticut who are watching this? What do you want to tell them about basically give a preview of next season?
It's a good question. Really hoping to improve on the results. That would be one. I think we're heading in the right direction. Hired added a lot of coaches onto the staff. Got some more experience there. Defensive coordinator came from Hand, very sharp guys. Obviously been around some really good football up there. Very experienced. Brought an offensive coordinator in. He's coached in college, and a couple other guys that are going to be a really big help. Got good kids coming back. Really excited. A couple months back, we voted on the captains. They've been doing a good job just trying to keep the kids motivated and kind of keep them on task. But no, you're going to see a lot of effort. We'll be a high effort team, and that's never really been an issue with these kids. And from the coaching staff, we'll obviously putting in a lot of time and, like I said, refining what we were doing, switching the defense around a little bit, and then I know we're working now to kind of simplify the offense a little bit and tailor it more towards what these kids need to know and not necessarily what we want them to know.
Coach Behrens, I really do appreciate the time. We've just about run out. But again, thank you so much for being able to come on and take time out of your day to be able to talk about Staples football and about your coaching career as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, no problem. Anytime, man. Now, that'll wrap things up here on the Connecticut Sports Talent Show. So until next time, stay safe and enjoy the rest of your day, everybody.